If your water bill jumps every summer, here's why, and it might surprise you. Outdoor watering can eat up around 60% of a home's water use in some parts of the country, according to EPA WaterSense data. Kind of a lot, right? And most of it is avoidable. There are 7 perennials that keep blooming straight through the hottest, driest stretch of summer. And once they're settled in, they can go weeks without a drop from your hose. Number 6 is the one almost everyone waters far more than it needs, and there's a good chance it's already growing in your yard. We're covering all 7 today: black-eyed Susan, purple coneflower, blanket flower, yarrow, Russian sage, a reblooming daylily, and threadleaf coreopsis. Every number here is pulled from University Extension research, NC State, Iowa State, Penn State, plus EPA water data, not just what looks pretty on a plant tag. There are also a couple of pet safety notes worth hearing before you buy anything, so stick around for those. Your grandmother probably had one corner of the yard she never watered, and it somehow looked better than the rest by August. Turns out, that's plain science, not luck. Number 1. Black-eyed Susan. It blooms from July clear into October, 3 straight months of colour. Once established, it's heat and drought tolerant, and it shrugs off clay, poor, even gravelly soil. Give it 1 full season of regular watering to dig in, and after that, it mostly runs on rainfall. Deadhead the spent blooms every couple of weeks, no tools needed, and that alone stretches the flowering longer. Number 2. Purple coneflower. Echinacea, if you want the fancy name. It's the toughest one in its family for heat and drought, blooming from early summer through mid-fall. It's native to the middle of the country, so it's not asking your soil to do anything unnatural. Bonus: goldfinches love the seed heads, so leave a few standing into fall for company at the window all winter. Number 3. Blanket flower. It'll bloom most of the season if you deadheaded, right up to the first frost. It practically hates being fussed over. Give it too much water and it does worse, not better. Here's something to know: blanket flower doesn't stick around forever. Most plants burn out after about 2 years, so let a few go to seed or plan to replant now and then. It's hardy, roughly zone 3 through 9 or 10, depending on the source. Check your local extension to be sure, and the sap can irritate skin a little, so wear gloves when you trim it. Stick with me, because the next one on this list is toxic to more than just your garden bed. It might surprise you which pets need to steer clear. That's 3 you've probably already got. The next 2 do the heavy lifting once everything else starts to wilt in August. Number 4. Yarrow. Fernleaf yarrow blooms from late spring into midsummer, sometimes longer if you deadhead it, and its feathery leaves barely use any water to begin with. Don't overdo the water or the fertilizer here. Less really is more. Now, here's something worth knowing before you plant it. Yarrow is toxic to dogs, cats, and horses. Nothing life-threatening, more along the lines of an upset stomach or skin irritation if a pet eats a good mouthful. If you've got animals that graze the yard, especially horses, keep an eye on it or tuck it somewhere they won't wander. There's one more on this list that almost nobody trusts to survive on its own. And it might be the biggest surprise of the whole video. Number 5. Russian sage. It blooms from June all the way through October. Basically, a 4-month colour show with silvery, fuzzy leaves that almost glow in the evening light. It genuinely performs best in dry, tough conditions. One thing to remember, don't do any heavy pruning in fall or early winter. It can set the plant back hard, sometimes kill it outright. Wait until spring, once you see new growth low on the stems. Now, here it is, number 6, a reblooming daylily. Most folks think daylilies need constant watering to keep flowering, and that's just not true. Varieties like Stella d'Oro bloom from May into August with an extremely long bloom period, and they're remarkably drought-tolerant once established, thanks to thick, fleshy roots that store water like a little underground tank. Now don't panic, but this next part matters, especially if you've got a cat. Daylilies are toxic to cats, and this isn't a mild stomachache. Every part of the plant, leaves, petals, even the pollen or the water sitting in a vase, can cause kidney failure in a cat, and it can be fatal within a day or two if it's not caught fast. Dogs are fine around daylilies. This is a cat-specific risk, and it doesn't take much. Even a cat grooming a few grains of pollen off its fur can be enough. If you've got a cat, or your neighbour's cat wanders through your beds, plant daylilies somewhere it can't reach, or skip them altogether. If you ever suspect a cat has nibbled one, call ASPCA, Animal Poison Control, right away at 888-426-4435. And don't wait to see if symptoms show up first. Take a breath. This last one is the easy, worry-free finish to the list. Number 7. Threadleaf Coreopsis. It's the quiet one nobody talks about, but it might outlast everything else here. Fine, thread-like leaves that barely lose moisture, blooming from late spring through late summer, and it actually does best in dry, sandy soil. Rich soil and heavy watering make it flop over and bloom less. It's generally considered non-toxic to dogs, cats, and horses, so it's a safe pick near a patio where pets like to nap. Here's why all 7 pull this off. Deep roots that reach moisture other plants can't get to. Leaves that are narrow, silvery, or a little fuzzy to cut down water loss. And in a couple cases, roots built like storage tanks. That's the whole trick. 3 mistakes trip people up with every plant on this list. Watering a light daily sprinkle instead of a deep weekly soak trains roots to stay shallow. Giving up on watering too early, just a few weeks in, doesn't give roots the chance to dig down. And planting in part shade, because it seems gentler, when every one of these actually wants full sun. Fix all 3, and that's most of the work already done. Let's talk cost. The EPA estimates outdoor watering can run a household over $1,000 a year, and university research shows switching to drought-tolerant plants like these can cut that watering by 1/3 to more than half. Once these 7 are in the ground and settled, they're basically dirt cheap to keep going. Your neighbours will ask how your bed is still blooming during a dry spell that's turned everyone else's lawn brown. A quick word before you plant. Every one of these needs consistent watering that first growing season, sometimes stretching into a second while the roots dig down deep. Almost no water is what happens after that, not from day 1. And for zones, most of these run comfortably from Zone 3 through 9, though a couple vary by source, so it's worth a quick call to your local extension office to confirm. A viewer in Arizona wrote in saying her coneflowers were the only things still blooming during a month with 0 rain. Exactly what the research predicts. So, here's the simple version. 1 good season of regular watering while these roots settle in, and after that, most years, Mother Nature handles the rest. Pick one, tuck it into the driest, sunniest corner of your yard, and let it prove itself this summer. Less watering, less worry, more color, right through the hottest stretch of the year. Happy gardening!